Less than 60 seconds. That was all it took. 2:13 a.m., Gulf of Oman. Inside the Iranian command center, radar screens glitched, then went pitch black, leaving a dead silence no military strategist could explain. No blast, no incoming missile. An American stealth aircraft just hit them with a massive high-frequency microwave pulse, frying every single processing chip across Tehran's air defense grid. The most brutal hunt in military history had officially started. Out on the Arabian Sea, a 100,000-ton steel beast, the USS Abraham Lincoln, sliced through the dark toward the Strait of Hormuz. Deep under the Makron Mountains, heavy steel hatches groaned open. 17 missile launchers rolled out of the pitch-black bunker like armored ghosts. Down at Cape Jask, the Cobra V-8 activates, blasting the electromagnetic spectrum with jamming signals, creating a 200-kilometer blind spot. Iran thinks they hold the winning hand. 2:20 a.m. On the Lincoln's flight deck, you won't see hissing steam plumes or hear the clanking of old, outdated machinery. Two Boeing F/A-18 Super Hornets get flung into the dark by the electromagnetic launch system in absolute terrifying silence. No trace of smoke, not one single unnecessary sound. The second those fighters brushed the edge of the air defense ring, Tehran swallowed the bait. Two surface-to-air missiles screamed through the pitch black, ripping the sky apart with streaks of white fire. The jet cockpits shook hard under the suffocating pressure. Those American pilots calmly pulled a 9G turn that crushed their chests, dumping blinding magnesium flares to completely fry the incoming infrared sensors. Just like that, the ghostly Super Hornets vanished without a single trace back into radar darkness. Down on the ground, Iranian commanders finally exhaled. They figured they chased off the intruders, buying them exactly 6 minutes to lock in their final defensive perimeter. But they were dead wrong. The U.S. Navy doesn't use clocks to check the time. They use them to count down the death of Tehran's tactical edge. Iran's hunters had zero clue their kill coordinates were locked in American hands before those rocket engines even sparked to life. A massive multi-domain trap was set, and the prey was walking right into its final seconds of blind confidence. 2:35 a.m. High over the Gulf of Oman, the stratosphere belongs to a phantom. Launched out of Al Udeid Air Base, the Northrop Grumman RQ-180, America's most classified stealth drone, holds its station at 60,000 feet. Completely invisible to standard radar, this giant white bat silently dissects the battlefield. While the world below stays buried in the dark, the RQ-180 controls a zone of total electronic dominance. It doesn't just watch, it hunts. The drone spins up its primary sensor synthetic aperture radar. Optical cameras can't pierce desert fog or heavy camo, but SAR bounces microwave pulses, building high-resolution 3D maps. Down below, 17 Iranian mobile missile launchers are trying something bold. To hide, they merge right into the flow of civilian highway trucks, literally using human shields to mask their missiles. But the drone's AI separates the exact steel density and wheel axles of military targets from commercial rigs. Terrifying precision. 2:46 a.m. Encrypted target data beams up via satellite, feeding straight to the USS Abraham Lincoln over Link 16. Inside the command center, those launchers pop up as glowing red icons. The kill chain is primed and ready. But Tehran responds with quiet logic. They flip on the Bavar 373 passive radar. This radar doesn't broadcast a thing. It just sits there, listening for signals bouncing off stealth aircraft frames. Right then, the launcher crews kick off their shoot-and-scoot tactics. Moving every 20 minutes to wipe their heat signatures, and break American target locks. 2:50 a.m. The electronic battlefield turns toxic. That Cobra V-8 unit at Cape Jask dumps white noise across the airspace. A digital blizzard built to choke Link 16 and blind the drone. Over on the Lincoln screens, red icons flickered, then just vanished. Target correlation lost. In seconds, 70% of Iran's launchers fade into this thick electronic fog. The all-seeing eye went totally blind. American commanders are suddenly staring at a blank map. The hunt just got incredibly dangerous. 3 a.m. That eye might be temporarily blocked out, but the U.S. Navy, they never rely on just one sensor. Hidden by a raging electronic storm, 2 Lockheed Martin F-35C Lightning IIs, the ultimate carrier-based stealth fighters, plunge straight into the dead zone. Skimming just 15 meters above the churning waves, they slip right under the enemy radar horizon. These are the quarterbacks. To lock in total stealth, they trigger MCON Alpha full emission control mode. Every radar and active sensor goes completely dark. They aren't hunting. They're just absorbing passive data beamed down from the RQ-180 drone. Flying in tight formation are the Kratos XQ-58A Valkyries. The loyal wingmen, acting as the heavy muscle. Controlled by AI, each Valkyrie is a flying arsenal. This lets the F-35C ditch heavy munitions that would spike its radar signature. The F-35C pilot runs the entire battle through a touchscreen. Meanwhile, the Valkyrie waits in the shadows, a steel fist ready to smash the target. 3:08 a.m. The primary threat remains Iran's Bavar 373. Their passive radar is just sitting there, silently listening. The Americans need to make some noise. Taking orders from the F-35C, the Valkyries unleash a swarm of Raytheon ADM 160 MALD decoys. These little drones are absolute masterpieces of deception. Pumping out amplified signals, they perfectly fake the massive radar signature of a B-52 bomber squadron. 3:12 a.m. Deep inside a Cape Jask bunker, Iranian radar operators are watching a nightmare unfold. Their screens show a massive U.S. carpet-bombing fleet screaming straight toward their hidden rocket cities. Blind panic overrides basic logic. The Iranian commander makes a fatal error. He orders the Bavar 373 into active tracking mode, desperately trying to lock onto those fake B-52s. The second that Bavar 373 lights up, it drops the Ghost Act and becomes a glowing beacon. The RQ-180 drone instantly triangulates the coordinates, feeding data right to the F-35C. The pilot calls the strike. The Valkyrie's belly bay snaps open, ripping out a Raytheon AIM-174B, the deadly long-range variant of the Standard missile. Mach 3.5 inbound. The weapon shreds the Bavar 373 radar cluster before the Iranians even realized they were completely played. The defensive shield is totally shattered. The American commander finishes his first symphony, 3:20 a.m. Losing the Bavar 373 sends a massive shockwave of strategic panic straight through Iran's underground command centers. Knowing their radar eyes are getting systematically gouged out, Tehran triggers a desperate backup plan. It is incredibly low-tech, but highly deadly. Deep inside the Makran limestone mountains, those hidden missile cities open up a massive network of secret underground tunnels. Without warning, the entire ground just erupts into roaring flames. Over 30 passive heat-seeking surface-to-air missiles launch all at once in a massive, unguided, blind barrage. Unlike standard weapons, these emit absolutely zero detectable radar signals. They are pure heat seekers, blindly chasing the scorching exhaust of military jet engines across the freezing night sky. For the F-35C and the Valkyrie drones, the sky instantly stops being a quiet, empty expanse. It becomes a towering wall of fire, just raw magnesium and propellant rapidly closing in from every single direction. Inside the F-35C, pilots watch their cockpit screens violently flash with launch alerts from the DOS warning system. You can have all the advanced stealth coating in the world, but blazing jet engines still pump out enough heat to feed these passive predators. America's stealth fighters are completely pinned down by a rising wall of fire. But the U.S. Navy prepared for exactly this kind of trap. 3:25 a.m., ripping out of the fleet's defensive perimeter, the Boeing EA-18G Growler joins the fight. This thing is no stealth fighter. It is a flying, digital sledgehammer. The Growler instantly fires up its ALQ-218 tactical jammers and high-frequency pods. It doesn't just block signals. It rips open a localized black hole of pure electromagnetic interference. It violently crushes Iran's battlefield comms, totally blinding coordination from those underground command bunkers. Meanwhile, the pilots pull bone-crushing 9G turns, dumping bright thermal flares. These decoys burn infinitely hotter than military jet exhaust, tricking all of Iran's infrared sensors into blindly chasing after nothing. With the DAS system feeding 360 vision directly through the jet's own metal skin, American fighter pilots calmly thread the needle through the raging crossfire, flipping a deadly ambush into an absolute masterclass of evasive maneuvering. Tehran perfectly sprung the trap, but their targets just slipped away in spectacular fashion. 3:40 a.m. With Iran's SAM batteries completely blinded and scrambled by the Growler's intense electronic jamming, the RQ-180 hovering at 60,000 feet recalibrated its synthetic aperture radar. The eye of God was open. It cut right through the heavy smoke and thermal chaos, locking onto the exact coordinates of those last 17 mobile missile launchers. They weren't hunting anymore. They were hiding. They slammed on the brakes, desperately trying to tuck themselves into the rocky crevices. Now, total sitting ducks. 3:45 a.m. The F-35C, owning the entire tactical map, ordered the final strike sequence. No need to risk a close fight. They unleashed a massive barrage of AGM-154 JSOWs. These stealth glide bombs dropped into pre-programmed low-altitude flight paths. They hugged the rugged terrain, dodging short-range air defenses entirely, wiping out all 17 launchers with terrifying precision. But Tehran still held one last desperate card. In a final, suicidal retaliation, they unleashed a massive swarm of Shahed 139 drones from hidden coastal pads. These low and slow loitering munitions were built for one thing: to overwhelm the carrier's Aegis combat system through sheer brute numbers. This is exactly where the XQ-58A Valkyrie proves its deadly worth as a true, loyal wingman, instantly detecting the approaching drone swarm using high-speed data from the RQ-180. No hesitation. The Valkyries immediately break off from the F-35C formation. Running purely on autonomous AI, these combat drones lock in the absolute perfect intercept trajectories in milliseconds. They refuse to waste multi-million-dollar missiles on cheap, flimsy plywood targets. Instead, they shred the sky using AI-driven kinetic interceptors and blazing solid-state laser modules. Every single Shahed is vaporized or completely blasted apart before it even reaches the fleet's horizon. It is a brutal masterclass in combat economics. The Navy deploys a reusable AI drone to shield a $13 billion aircraft carrier from a massive wave of cheap suicide weapons. 0 American lives are put on the line. If a Valkyrie goes down, it's just a budget line item. But if the Lincoln takes a hit, the entire world shifts. The massive Iranian strike is neutralized. Nothing remains but crashing waves and the cold silence of absolute American dominance. 5 a.m., Arabian Sea. The sun crests, and the fierce firestorm fades into a heavy, eerie silence. The U.S. didn't have to level the entire country to win. They executed a perfectly surgical takedown of Tehran's Central Command networks. Their integrated air defense grid is now completely, hopelessly paralyzed. Those infamous underground missile cities, once their greatest pride, are suddenly just exposed heaps of smoking scrap metal. The Iranian military retreats deep into fortified bunkers, desperately scrambling to shield whatever forces they've got left. It's a devastating lesson in return on investment. Tehran thought they were playing it smart, baiting the enemy with an $8,000 drone. But the reality? $8,000 bought the collapse of a multi-billion-dollar defense doctrine. By unleashing the EA-18G Growler alongside the silent RQ-180, American forces turned every single one of Iran's high-end missiles into absolute junk. Here's the brutal logic. The secret is total silence. In modern fifth-generation warfare, whoever speaks first dies. The U.S. doesn't even use active radar. They stalk through passive shadows. To find the Americans, Iran had to light up every single sensor. And the very second they flipped those lights on in the pitch dark, they became the brightest, most vulnerable target on the planet. That was checkmate. Out in the quiet Persian Gulf, Tehran learned a vicious truth. Combat information isn't just power anymore, it's pure survival. They spent decades forging a massive wall of fire, only to realize the hard way it was entirely made of glass. Every radar pulse they blasted out wasn't a searchlight, it was a distress flare, lighting up their own execution. You simply can't fight a ghost by screaming blindly into the dark. You're just telling the phantom exactly where to strike. For Tehran's high command, this was the most terrifying night in their military history. The absolute, undeniable collapse of their strategic pride. But for the exhausted sailors and elite pilots aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln, prepping the flight deck and grabbing chow in the mess hall, just another ordinary Tuesday. Look, if you want to see American forces pull this off again with even crazier, next-level defense tech, you'd better sign up for the front lines. The future of modern warfare is silence, and that silence has only just begun.